broken nail! There's only one thing for it. It's ping pong time! Right, making a ping pong ball nail from scratch. You will need a ping pong ball. I use 3-star ping pong balls. These ones are especially good. This is a seamless ball. Sometimes they have a seam running down the edge, which you can't really use. So seamless means you can use more of the surface area. But you want 3-star, good quality ball. Some scissors, tweezers, super glue, a nail file, and then whatever you use to file your nails with. I use 2000 grit 3M sandpaper. That's all I use on my nails. So I'm starting from scratch. Usually I'd already have a ping pong ball cut up for this purpose. Be very careful when you're doing this. You want to cut the ball in half to get access to it. What has my life become? This is weird. And then from here, you want to find a nice flat edge to work off of. And then you'll kind of just have to eyeball this, but I sort of know the size that I'm looking for. You want to be oversized, obviously, so that you can come in and make it smaller as you're making it. Okay, I'm going to leave this to the side for now, but you'll end up with a whole guitar case full of these weird monstrosities. Now to prepare the nail, well, you can see here, I have a ping pong ball nail on already. So this is super glued underneath your real nail, which is super weird. If it was on top, if I was really playing hard, I would worry if it was on top that the pressure would ping the nail off, but because that's underneath, that is going absolutely nowhere. I've actually had a nail actually detach like this before, but because it was still underneath, it lasted me until the end of the performance. So we basically need to make sure that we have a little bit of white left on the nail, because this is going to get super glued underneath. So we need something to glue it onto, but not too much white. And also it needs to be a smooth gluing surface. Now this had a ping pong nail on it already before, so there is a lot of sort of horrible gunky glue underneath there. But all I'm doing is making sure that I've gotten rid of all the horrible glue that's already there from the previous nail. So then you want to make sure that you have not too much white remaining, otherwise you'll create some sort of weird double edge when you're plucking. You only want just enough white. Same with any sanding, blow away the dust as you're sanding, so you can see what you're doing and see how much you're taking off. Always file from underneath when you're doing your nails. That's the main area of contact when you hit a string. Do a little bit on the front and a little bit on the top of the nail as well. But predominantly when you're using a file, you want to come from slightly underneath. Not completely, but definitely not head on. You want to come from slightly underneath the nail. And I'm just making sure the edges, everything's rounded, everything's flowing in its form. And I might use a little bit of my paper just to get rid of some of the dust, rougher edges. Usually I would spend a bit longer on this. If you want to, you can fold the paper in half to get underneath the nail and sort of smooth everything over. But as you can see, I've got a bit of white, not a huge amount, but enough to glue a surface to. And now, this will take practice. You will use loads of these and do it completely wrong and have to start again. That's fine. Whenever I started doing this years ago, it took me a long time. But basically what I'm going to try and do is cut a curve into this that will perfectly slot underneath my real nail. Whether that happens first time on video, I will be absolutely amazed if it does. I can't see the angle that I'm filming at, so I hope this is still in frame. But I'm going to try and cut a curve that matches my middle fingernail curve. I've been doing this long enough that I should know how to do it. That's my best guess. And then all you want to do is make sure that this, I reckon that's a bit too small. Yeah, that's a little bit too small. Small is good because you can alter it. So that currently is sort of hitting. It's not going fully in, so I need to just widen it a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. That might be enough. And bang, that slots in relatively nicely. Cool. So that's what we'll end up with once it's glued on. Yeah, it feels a bit weird the first time, but I'm very, very used to it now. I do this every couple of weeks. I will change the nail and put a new one on. So this is important. This is very important. How much glue you get on, where you're holding it. because this stuff sets quite quickly. It can be very messy. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I still make mistakes. So step 1, prepare this holding the tweezers on the nail. Step 2, a thin layer about the same width as the amount of white you have on your nail or smaller. The glue will press out, so you don't want a huge amount of glue. So I'm going to hold this here and I'm going to apply a thin layer of glue. You might not be able to see how much glue I've put on there. No, because the lighting is too bright. But I've put on a thin layer of glue just on the edge. And what I do, when you press this into your nail, some of the glue will also squeeze out that way and attach itself to your skin underneath there. So I just press my finger lightly in here. And you see I've just got a thin line of glue that I'm just going to wipe off. And that will minimize the amount of glue that gets spilt out towards my skin underneath, which I do not want. So all I do now is I line it up. This is way too much glue. I'm going to line it up and then come up with your own method where I hold this side in with my thumbnail. So I'm going to push this. Oh, can you see? I'm going to push this up with my thumbnail to hold that side vaguely in place. And then on the other side, my tweezers are going to start pressing the nail in. So I'm holding the thumb on one side, the tweezers on the other. Always start in the corners first, because that is where it will find it hardest to hold, because it's the thinnest amount of nail you'll have. So that's held. I'm pushing quite hard. This is the most uncomfortable bit. It can be a tiny bit painful the first few times you're doing. I'm going to wipe off any glue from the tweezers on my finger. And now I'm going to come into this corner. And then once I've done the edges, I will now put pressure in the middle with the tweezers in there. Sometimes I even hold the edge with my thumbnail here up just to keep the pressure. But there you go. And then I just go around just evenly putting pressure in, back in the corner, back on the top. I'm going to restart recording in just like 2 minutes, just while this glue has a time to set. I will see you in 2 minutes. Okay, I got impatient. This has only been 1 minute. I've zoomed you in a little bit closer so you can see what's going on. So this, at the moment, looks absolutely horrible. Complete mess, glue everywhere, horrible shape, but it is securely underneath. You can see it's fit quite well underneath there. I've got a good shape. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it to the vaguely correct shape. And then I'm going to file it to my shape and then sand it to as close to perfection as I can get. Generally what I'm aiming for is less nail on the left-hand side and then a ramp up to the right, maybe 3/4 up the nail. And then after the 3/4 waypoint, then it curves round and off. And what this means is when you're plucking, the string will enter the leftmost side of the nail and it will contact a bit of skin and a bit of nail at the same time, avoiding any clicking sounds, which are very common in guitar playing. Then as I depress the string will travel up the nail, which will give me a really good solid tone and a lot of projection. And then because it's got a nice curved exit on the outside, the string will leave without any resistance. If you have too much nail here, it will make clicking sounds and maybe grab the string and stop you going through it smoothly. And similarly, if you have too much nail here or too sharp an angle here on the exit, it will also grab and create sort of less than ideal tone. So I'm going to cut this to a vague... This is so weird having a camera in my face trying to do this. So I'm not going to go right close to it because the pressure of the scissors might actually sort of undo the glue. So I'm going to go relatively close to the shape that I want. So off on the left. There's my ramp. But that is a very vague ramp. I might clip off this edge if I was very brave. You can see there's a bit sticking out there, and there's similarly a bit sticking out there. I might just trim that off there. That's a bit risky, but fine. Now what I do is I deal with these edges first. So there's way too much nail there, pointy, and too much nail there, pointy. So I'm just going to come from the side and again blowing the dust off so I can actually see what I'm doing. I'm always coming slightly underneath the nail. There you go. There's no excess nail in there that's going to catch. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is in a sort of curving motion. Sometimes I do it from the front to see what general shape I'm I'm producing. Sometimes I do it like this. I try and sort of look, I always, when I'm filing, look at my nail from every possible angle, because sometimes it looks great. Most nails look great like that. They all look fantastic. Well, this one doesn't, but most of them do. But then as soon as you look at them like this, or this, or this, you'll start to see imperfections or little snags or bits where the shape isn't transitioning properly. I'm sure you do your nails a completely different way than I do, but this is just my way. There, it does create a load of dust, and anyone who's done this before knows that there is a vaguely psychedelic effect to smelling all the glue that was contained within this ping pong ball. That is probably a bit short for me, but I reckon for the purposes of this video, I might redo this later on. But now I'm onto the sandpaper. Again, I'm going underneath. You see, I'm not going head on, I'm not pushing into it, I'm coming from underneath the nail. That's the main point of contact from the string, is underneath, so that's my primary point where I'm sanding it. But then of course I'm also doing a bit on the front, and I'm going to do a bit on the top as well. You want to buff it on all sides. That is way too short for me, but I'm not surprised because I can't hugely see what I'm doing, but the nail is on. It looks like a guitar nail, and I'm sure it will sound nice in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish buffing this. Again, you can see I'm working all around it, mostly underneath. I'm going to keep buffing it for a second, and then let's see what it sounds like. Good news! It's worked! Quite happy with the sound of that one. Blends in nicely with the index finger, tremolo as well. No, very nice. So yeah, I hope that's been useful. It will take a while to get used to and fiddle around with shapes. And what I will say is that because the ping pong ball plastic is underneath where your original nail was, it does make it slightly easier to make a nail click sound, because the nail, or the fake nail, is that much closer, like point whatever of a millimeter closer to the string than it normally would be. So I have found sometimes it can be, I'm trying to make that bad sound, but it can just be a little bit more difficult to make a clean sound with them, but it's very, very, very marginal. So yeah, please drop any questions you have about it in the comments. I'd be happy to answer any that you have. And yeah, good luck if you try it. Let me know how it goes. And I will catch you in the next video. Thanks very much.